All right. This is off the cuff again. Everything that I do is pretty much off the cuff. And so that's what it's going to be. And it's based on prior experience as well as prior research that I have done. And any of the things that I talk about, you can actually go into Google it, and you can find actual reports of the things that I talk about. And one of the things that I talk about, that I'm going to talk about today, is lithium. Lithium, okay. It is it's an element on the periodic table, and part of the reason we're in Afghanistan is because there are deposits of lithium all throughout Afghanistan. So what's happening basically is we're mining this lithium, and then because we've paid Afghanistan to be able to mine there, and then we're selling the lithium to China. Okay, now if you understand what the trend is for movies now, I've watched quite a lot of science fiction movies, which aren't actually science fiction. They're research projects. Okay? Understand that. They're research projects. All right? You can go and you can find a documentary about a future plan to put up industrial sites on Mars, and then eventually these industrial sites will emit carbon monoxide into the air, and then it will cause an atmosphere, which will cause rain, which will cause the ice to melt and the sun to shine, and it will cause it to be compatible eventually to human beings should we want to decide to ship out of here and go to Mars. Okay. There and Let's see. There's another scientific project, like for the moon. Now there was a woman in I believe it was Utah. I think it was. As she was developing a greenhouse that would be able to be used on the moon, and it would have its own oxygen resource installed in it, and it would be able to recirculate all the oxygen throughout the greenhouse, and it would be able to grow plants and vegetation and trees and so on and so forth. And then a person or a group of people could actually live in a greenhouse such as this on the moon. And it would also house the protective suits that they would need to go out on the moon and dig for stuff, mine for stuff, so that they could eventually put it on a shuttle and bring it back to bring it back to Earth. Okay. And When you look at Asian, specifically Chinese movies, science fiction movies, you'll see another research project in the works. And that's where you have all the population, which they have installed chips in their brains. There's a certain part of the brain in the cortex which can communicate with computers via satellite. Okay. And so the new way to investigate crime and to get to the bottom of a crime is to log or trace everybody's actions throughout their daily lives. Okay, so that if a crime takes place, then a police officer having a higher grade uh, chip in it, which has a security protocol in there, which he uses, he would be able to then, at that point, access anybody's chip in their brain and determine where they went, what they did, who they were with, what they were doing, how they got there, if they walked, if they took transportation, and so on and so forth. That is a science fiction movie that I saw, and I can't recall which one it was. Okay, but in that science fiction movie, the researchers there are trying to make it a reality where a police officer would be able to access records on a particular person and then access a chip in their brain and then be able to solve a crime. And this also means that a person's feelings, a person's memories, a person's thoughts, even at the moment, would be vulnerable to scanning, okay, by any government official, police official, anybody who has a security clearance to operate a computer to gain access to the satellite. All right. Now that I've gotten that over with, let's get back to lithium. Lithium, like I said, is being mined out of Afghanistan, is being sold to China. China is developing these lithium batteries which have long lifespans, which have a special means of being charged. These same batteries can also be made into micro batteries, the kind of batteries that would charge a chip, a microchip. And I'm not talking something that you can see with your bare eye. Understand that you can now make a microchip that's as small as the needle point, as the needle on a needle point, or a point on a needle. Off the cuff, live, jeez. Okay, so anyway, it can be that small. All right, and then you can put all kinds of information on this thing. Okay, I know you've seen the USB drives now that have the ability to carry 1 terabyte of information on it, and you can just plug it into your laptop or put it in your cell phone, and you could potentially play on your cell phone a rather large video game and not worry about latency. Okay, and so this is the kind of storage capacity that we're talking about on a chip the size of the point of a needle. Okay. The lithium battery obviously will fit on this circuit board. And then the whole idea behind developing these chips, and by the way, China has been researching this since 1983. They've been wanting to put chips in humans since 1983. Okay? And guess what powers this chip? A lithium battery. Okay, now, understand that lithium also has a specific function in medicine for treating schizophrenics. Okay, so they make up a pill, and they have a schizophrenic take it twice a day, and then he can live a pretty much normal life. Because what it does is it turns on certain axons and it turns off certain axons that are making connections to the neurons. In other words, it stops a spark from firing across those nodes so that it can control the behavior. Okay? Now, what happens now if you have somebody that takes lithium who does not have these problems? Okay? Well, it starts turning off these axons and neurons, and it stops firing the sparks that you need for your brain to be able to operate normally, and then you become yourself schizophrenic. Okay? Now, understand that these circuit boards are going to be powered by lithium batteries. Okay, now, as you know, batteries, as they get used, have a waste product. Okay? And we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay? Now, these human chips can be powered by this battery, and these chips are going to be so small that they can put them in your skin. The ideal place is in your right hand, but if it's impossible to put it in your right hand, they want to put it in your forehead, because you can wave your hand over a device that will read the chip in your hand. If you don't have it in your hand, then you can just put your forehead up against the device and it'll scan it. Okay? Now, this being said, now the waste product is supposed to be entirely contained within a capsule. Okay, now, what they are absolutely, totally ignoring. Now, there was a scientist that stopped working on this in about the mid-90s in California because of the waste product of the lithium battery. This waste product, if the capsule so happens to get chipped or broken inside your body, this lithium waste, it's still going to be lithium, but it's going to be a waste byproduct. It will go into your bloodstream. And it has a potential of poisoning your bloodstream to the point where your eyes may be burning out of your head and your skin may be falling off. This scientist brought that out. And this is in 2010. That one article came out. The other article came out in the mid-90s. Okay? He had to stop working on this science project because he had a moral responsibility to not subject human beings to that. Well, his research became the property of the particular company. I believe it was Intel. Or it was... it was one of those chip manufacturing companies. And China had an interest in this company. So now all the research had been transferred to China to further develop the chip. Okay? Now, what Bill Gates wants to do, okay, now I've seen some of his videos. I've seen some of the classes that he was teaching to military and physical doctors, that what he wanted to do is he wanted to eliminate the God factor in our brains. In other words, he knows there's a God. And he also knows that there's a particular part in the brain, it's about right here, that gives you a connection to the spiritual, to God. Now, it also gives you a connection to the dark side, to the demonic forces, to the demonic realm. However, its primary use is for you and God to communicate on a spiritual level. So when you pray, He may direct you to read some scriptures. When you pray, He may, through your circumstances in your life, lead you on a path to go talk to somebody, or in some cases, maybe somebody was praying for something, and He's answering that prayer by telling you, and you have absolutely no idea what's going on, but you find yourself buying something over the internet that this person needs. You don't need it, but this other person needed it. And then you find out a total complete stranger had been praying for something like that, and you just bought it. So what do? You deliver it to him or her. Okay? It's amazing how the relationship works. I mean, the Lord takes care of His people. And He has many ways of taking care of His people. He has many ways to answer prayers. He has many ways of speaking to us. And it's not necessarily in an audible voice. It's usually through circumstance. Usually through somebody's need. Okay? Now, what Bill Gates has been proposing over the last 5 years or so, and he's been investing in the research to do it, is trying to inject somebody with a particular kind of drug that would deaden our ability to communicate with God and for God to communicate with us. Okay, that is a specific intention. Now, he does say that he wants to eliminate the radical intention of this area, which may be tainted by darkness, which causes a person to do it. Okay, but that's an entirely different subject altogether. He doesn't just want to deal with a radical issue. He wants to deal with the entire issue of man being able to communicate with God. He wants to cut that off completely. Okay? So that's immoral. That's one. That's immoral. Number two, he wants to insert a chip whereby everybody on the globe can be tracked and traced from one place to another. Here's our science fiction coming to life. And there will be people in the government, in the FBI, in law enforcement, given a proper security code that will be able to access this chip and be able to access the satellite, and then be able to pinpoint your location, and they will also be able to activate that chip to tell them any information about you that they feel that they need to know. And understand that there's no way to monitor it. All right? Okay, that's one thing. I mean, that is an absolute violation of human rights. Okay? Once again, an injection in a form of a quote-unquote vaccine, it's not to vaccinate you against disease. It's to vaccinate you against God. Okay? The second thing is to give a one world government power over your lives every second, every minute of every day and every week, 365 days a year for your entire life. All right? In other words, not only do they intend to eliminate God from humanity, they intend to be God for humanity. Okay? This needs to be understood. All right? Now, as far as the lithium chip in the capsule, what could go wrong? I think I've discussed it already, and I think you understand. I repeat things so that you not only understand them, but so that you will remember them if you can make it through a 20-minute video. The waste product of the lithium, even the lithium itself, okay, if the lithium battery itself leaks pure lithium and burns a hole in the capsule, then you'll be getting trace amounts over time of lithium that will go into your bloodstream and then enter into your brain. And the first thing that you're going to notice is you're going to start noticing a little bit of erratic behavior, and then that erratic behavior gets greater and greater and greater as you become more and more and more exposed to the pure raw lithium that's coming from that battery. All right? And then pretty soon it's going to run out of lithium, and then the damage is done. You're schizophrenic now. All right? Second thing, the waste product. All right, now understand that it's going to be charged by the electrical impulses of the human body. Okay? There has got to be a waste product. Now suppose that chip cracks. The waste product is going to go through the cracks and into your bloodstream. It's not pure lithium now. It is dirty, used lithium after it has had a chemical reaction. Okay? And as I said, this particular scientist, he had a moral responsibility to quit working on the project even though it was his, because of the potential damage it can do up to death to the human body. The lithium waste product, if it is leaked into your bloodstream, over time, accumulating in your bloodstream, has the potential of eating your skin off while you're alive, and potentially burning your eyes out of your sockets, burning your tongue while it's in your mouth. And that brings up a particular scripture in Zechariah 12, which God will bring a punishment upon those who had fought against Israel to destroy Israel, wipe it off the face of the earth. And that's not just Muslims now. Okay? That's everybody globally who is against Israel. He will punish them with a plague that causes their flesh to fall off and their eyes to burn out of their sockets while they're walking down the street. They're literally going to die walking. And I need you to understand this. I mean, if you can get through 25 minutes of this video at this point to this, it's the second time I've repeated it. I don't think you got it the first time. The waste product of a lithium battery, if it gets through the crack of a chip that you will choose to receive by free will, knowing the risks, has the potential of invading your bloodstream, getting into your heart, getting into your brain, and it will burn the sockets out of your eyes, burn your tongue out of your mouth, and it will eventually make it to your skin, and it will cause your skin to burn off of you as you're walking. You're literally going to be walking dead. Okay? Now, something that you need to see about these science fiction movies There are some people who are making these science fiction movies who are seeing these in visions, and they have no other way to express it, and so they make a movie about it. This ought to bring to mind zombies. Okay? They've got no connection to God. They're infected by some kind of virus, probably as a result of a vaccine. And so now they're walking around. They can't think for themselves. All they know is that they're hungry, and they eat everything. And their flesh is falling off of their bones. Their eyes are burning out of their sockets, and their teeth are burning out of their mouth. Okay? So I just need you to think about this before you take that chip. It's dangerous. And you have not only the right, but the responsibility to make your own health decisions. When somebody comes down and says, it's a mandate for you to take this vaccine, and along with the vaccine, get a chip. It's immoral, it's wrong, and it's guaranteed that you will lose your soul. Right then and there. You're walking dead at that point. Thank you very much.